How can sound create experiences of change to social and physical infrastructure? How can we present data in emotional ways to express concerns and force accountability around the negative effects of gentrification and displacement?
We came up with an initial inquiry question in response to the brief. In an increasingly politically divided climate, we decide to isolate ourselves from those people who hold opposing ideas and beliefs. How can augmented reality be used as a tool for action to aid in the presentation and visualization of tensions and issues within a community?
We've put this into a context of gentrification and anchored our aims to our university's local area, New Cross. Based in the borough of Lewisham in southeast London, Goldsmiths has a complicated and rocky relationship with its surroundings. Members of the group have relationships with the New Cross Learning Centre, a library and community hub for residents in the area. And through living here, it's clear to see that a large middle-class student population and the existence of close up-and-coming areas like Deptford and Elephant and Castle are beginning to swallow and change New Cross with coffee bars, vintage shops and really expensive rent.
As students, it's our responsibility to be part of a solution to a problem that we create.
Our research on more well-known and direct instances of gentrification, often hidden by buzzwords like regeneration and development, consisted of cases like the Haygate Estate and Pepys Estate redevelopments. Homes are demolished and people are displaced with promises of a return to an affordable and improved living space, which in reality amounts to years of secrets and dodgy resettlements. We understood that gentrification isn't an individual problem to solve, but it's definitely something that people need to empathise with in the first steps to real solutions.
We've since realised that maybe not aiming at communities affected by gentrification, but the communities that perpetuate it will be a more effective reason for using AR. It is more accessible to younger people that use social media. We want to explore how to access people that don't want to learn about gentrification. How do you target people that don't care? And how do you get them to engage?
All of our research amounts to stats about government spending, complex rules, and loopholes in systems that are all hugely valid and important, yet aren't human. They don't provide an experience or any room for empathy. How can we turn these numbers and percentages into tangible, yet also intangible and accessible things? These abstract concepts confuse a reality of displacement, foreclosure, and dissolution of local culture, observations that are so common in areas undergoing regeneration. Their effects on local people are describable in more ways than just facts and figures.
This led to a renewed and altered mission statement. We as students observe only part of the change that is happening to our local areas. We collectively agree that there should be positive ways to identify and interact with this change and how it affects our local areas. We want to use AR as a tool to represent these data in meaningful and emotional ways, to express concerns and force accountability around the negative effects of gentrification.
Augmented and virtual reality have been described as empathy machines. It has been used in real-world situations to change the minds of powerful people. We can use AR to begin to understand experiences outside of our own.
AR is often assumed to be primarily visual. But how can sound take over as a main action?
Using sound as a vehicle, how can we interpret and document change using our research to craft a digital experience? How can we encode emotion into a space to create an accessible and meaningful context?
After thinking about the potential audio element of our project, we wanted to have something that has a meaning. In our sound experiments, we tried to use sound as a vehicle for information, transposing the data on how often shops change on New Cross Road onto a synthesizer to create a sound piece. Data sonification enables us to simultaneously distance ourselves from and engage in different ways with data, transforming it into something more accessible than numbers on a spreadsheet. Sound is more emotional, therefore it debunks the inaccessible nature of studies and research.
Margaret Macmillan Park is a thoroughfare between New Cross and Deptford, a bridge between the university and a long-loved market space. The path is viable for an involvement of both communities.
The space is walled by a block of flats with views of redevelopment surrounding.
The path is lined with poles. Thematically, the ideas of sound waves, rising and falling, statistical graphs, high-rise towers, timelines, etc. all allude to these mixed realities we're exploring. The park also takes a B route to a preferred path into Deptford. The snow allowed us to see the usage of these paths and affords opportunity for us to further explore how we physically put AR in the way of people and make them want to engage with our intervention.
For the data visualization so far, I got some census data and I looked at the different type of industries in the area because this is a good way to assess gentrification, because things like working services or trades retail can show us what kind of people can afford to live in the area, and changes in jobs shows that people might have to move in or out of the area depending on what is provided for them, what they can afford. So I've seen that certain jobs have gone up, like the arts industry, accommodation and food services have gone up between 2015 and 2019, and some of them have gone down, such as business admin and support services and retail and motor trades. So this shows a change in the area. I decided to make them into this graph that kind of splits them up into a block. I thought this would be really nice to do something with later on, kind of visually make this in some kind of windows or use some kind of creative license from the local area to represent these changes. And then this could then be implemented through AR onto the space we are looking at.
I've been looking at ways to visualise and advertise the information and AR feature. Posters for the park bulletin board, for example. Nothing too over the top for the moment. I will move this on to ways to engage people with the space where they need to start the AR, a kind of wayfinding design. I've also been working on ways to use the natural space as part of the AR visuals, as I don't want to litter the area with too much stuff, like, for example, a QR code. I think imposing more change to this area would go against the ethics and point of the project.
We created a LiDAR scan of the park in order to explore new ways of interaction with spaces. From that, we created a 3D model of the space, which then can be viewed again in the future. This allows us to share and archive spaces regardless of physical location. We are also working on a research zine about the materiality and ethics of augmented reality and who is left out of this new layer of information. It is important to reflect on our own work in any space and examine our methodology while we are in the process of making, in order to make our designs accessible.
As a way to make the AR technology more engaging, the tool could enable a person to walk through a pavilion. It would serve as an information center, with each pole being an interactive representation of collected data on gentrification.
So what are our next steps? Going forward into the procedural making stage, we want to take these auditory experiments further and try coupling them with visual identifiers that express what emotional effects these infrastructural issues may actually be having, amplifying this conceptual experience beyond that of something just like an AR fact sheet. Using what we've already identified in our target area, we will take these experiments with sound and begin to scale this onto the space, and then reflect how successful it would be in engaging a possible user base that consists of both gentrifiers and those who have experienced impacts of gentrification negatively. Asking how do we make this intervention work meaningfully? Thank you.